Today I am on my 3 acres of abandoned, neglected woodland, and my mission today is to begin to revitalize and restore the creek river system that is in the front of my property. Now before we get started, always remember, Earth is my planet.
Earth is my planet.
So greetings guys, today I am working to revitalize the natural rainwater creek that is in the front of my property. Now my property is a very weird shape with a large peninsula just jutting off the side of it, and I imagine that the amount of acreage that this river, like creek bed area, follows is probably about 4.5 to 6 acres long. But with that being said, this area is full of invasive trees, as I mentioned, and I want to start clearing the property starting at the front and starting at the back and eventually working my way until the whole property is restored. Now, when everyone walks in, they see an absolute mess of invasive trees. They see this creek running through the front of the property, and quite frankly, I love it because it adds a water garden dynamic to my land, and it also has a nice type of bottomland habitat where I can plant a ton of things that need a bunch of water to thrive and survive. So that is the mission today, is to clear a ton of invasives, start off right in the front of the corner of this lot, and to plant some nice natives as well, and to really get the seed bank flowing and going, because this area, when these invasives are cleared out, is going to receive a ton of sunlight, and I can't wait to make this a nice butterfly retreat on the creek side. Now, venturing into the creek side, we are surrounded by a ton of native evergreen tropicals in the form of the sable minor palmetto. Now, you guys know this is one of my favorite species of native palms. If any of you guys need a cold hardy palm species, this is native all throughout the southeast of the United States of America, and I highly recommend it. It doesn't form a full tree. This is about the mature height, a good 6 feet tall, and the fronds just spread all throughout. Now, this area is also home to a ton of goldenrod, and that is pretty much what all of this dead looking material standing up are the former flower stalks from last season. So I want to clear all that out, and then I'm going to begin to seed the area with wildflower seeds just to build up that seed bank, as I mentioned. Now where I am right now is an island in the middle of the waterway. So it actually splits in two. So there's a small waterway that comes back here, but this is the main thoroughfare behind me. You guys can see the water level is extremely low as of right now because it hasn't rained in a couple of weeks, but it does creep and it does meander on down, and the sable miners just gracing the edges of the rainwater creek definitely look majestic. So I'm gonna let those stay, obviously, and I'm just gonna remove a ton of the small trees such as these, because I really want as much light hitting the forest floor as possible. That way all my flowering species can receive the light they need to photosynthesize, produce flowers, and attract butterflies. With that being said, I'm gonna probably plant a couple of trees in this area as well, but let's just go ahead and get started, because I think I'm already biting off a bit more than I can chew. But that's why you need to like this video and subscribe, because trust me, this is only episode 1 of a series that's probably gonna meander its way for a couple of years at least. We got the tools of the trade: chainsaw, some brush killer, and a Windex bottle. Let's clear this area behind me, man. So all the trees that I'm taking out are invasive species. That is the Chinese tallow tree, the Chinese privet, and the waxleaf ligustrum. None of them are native to this area, so they have got to go. I spray them down to make sure they don't reemerge. So those 3 trees alone already cleared up a lot of space. All right, man. Hey, I feel like I'm making good progress. But then you turn the camera this way and there is a ginormous brush pile that I'm going to need to take care of. Now, luckily my brush cutter can make this into smaller pieces, basically mulchify it to the best of its effect, and then the bigger things I may eventually have to burn. I know some of you guys don't like that, but when you have this much material, you gotta do what you gotta do. There it is. So there goes one giant waxleaf ligustrum. So here's the trunk. Gotta spray it down. And what's crazy about this area is there is all this metal right here. Like, look at this. There's just a ton of metal This is all just chunks of barbed wire down here. I don't even think I can pull this out, so I might just build this up and make a nice high island with it and then plant some fruit trees on it. Now behind me are a bunch of small trees. I need to make tumble, get them out the way, then I can come through with a brush cutter. All right guys, now it's time to clear this space. Let's get it, boys. So by clearing this area, not only am I creating a walkable path for myself, but for different animals that are going to forage on all the new growth that does emerge. So I'm taking out the old goldenrod flower stalks, as I said, and all the tree seedlings and saplings that have popped up, because eventually they would shade out the area. And I want to create a different habitat on this property because the majority of it already is a forest. So unlike when I cleared paths and trails to the back of my property, I am spraying all of these shoots of trees just to make sure that they don't come back, because I want this to be a field of flowers, as I said. So not doing the follow through definitely will not help me in the long run. Now this area already is my baby. This is gonna be the pride and joy, the jewel of my abandoned 3 acres. It's gonna have a ton of flowers emerge because this area already gets a lot of sunlight. It's surrounded by water on 2 sides, so the soil is nice and moist. And this is where I'm going to begin to plant. So check out all the areas I have cleared, created nice paths, nice areas to plant in, and I feel like I made some good progress, honestly. So there we have it, y'all. A whole trail is cleared, and this area especially is where I want to start my wildflower garden. Now, one thing that I did not take into account is this tree right here, which is a Chinese tallow tree, super invasive. I noticed there were a bunch of tallows growing in this area. And then 2, you have this small oak tree, which isn't a problem, except there is a giant oak tree right next to it. So I don't want 2 oaks right next to each other in this close of proximity. So I am gonna take out the smaller one, and I am going to need to take out the tallow tree as well, just so it doesn't keep reseeding. Hey, I'm gonna keep it a stat, guys. This is the biggest tree I've cut down on the property thus far. I made a nice little hinge cut, and I let gravity work wonders on this invasive Chinese tallow tree. It took a minute to come down, but my Lord, did it feel good. Hell yeah, man. Hey, that wasn't too hard at all, bro. And I just took out a giant invasive tree. Now I need to spray it down, and I did get some triglycerol or whatever concentrate, this brush killer concentrate, to spray that stump and knock it out, because those Chinese tallows will reemerge from the roots. But I knocked it down. All right, y'all. It feels so good to have a tray full of native plants to finally get started and to hopefully have them start to spread their seed over time. So my first step is going to be to water these plants, and I'm just using this jar that I found on the land. There are so many jars and containers spread throughout that the waters bring in. So I just want to make sure everything is nice and hydrated before I put it in. So that should be good. Okay, gang, so the first plant we're throwing in is going to be inland sea oats. This is a perfect shade tolerant grass that loves to line wet areas and creeks and rivers, and it will form a nice ground cover and spread its seeds throughout. So let's go ahead and put these in and prevent some erosion. So we have 3 different ones, but they will self-seed and they will spread. If you've been following the channel, you know this is one of my favorite native shade tolerant grasses. There we go. And I get all these plugs at Buchanan's Native Plant Nursery. They were like $3 a pop, and that's the best bang for my buck, and I don't have to dig big holes. Now I'm gonna throw this next one by this small tree. There we go. And then I'm just gonna pack in this clay, and luckily there is some worm action happening around here. So that's always a good sign, man. I'm gonna start building compost piles around here too to really get the worms to take off, but it's a start. Oh shoot, this is right next to a sable minor seedling. Hold on, I gotta take this to the crib. Look at that, guys. We got a sable palm to take home. Now, speaking of sable palms, we have a giant one behind me, so I'm gonna put my 3rd little inland sea oats right underneath it. Try and shore up this bank a little bit. All right. So there we go. Now the next plant I'm gonna throw in is a butterfly magnet, and this is a Greg's Blue Mistflower. Just look how cute it is. So I'm gonna plant this in the same area just so I can keep track of where everything is going and so I can see it progress easily when I pull up to the property. Okay. Plug it in. Now as I plant the mistflower, here's a photo of it attracting butterflies. Queen butterflies especially love it, and it also is deer browse and can serve as a ground cover. So if the deer munch on it and butterflies can use it, that's a benefit to me and my future fruit trees. Now right here where I took a big old step, I'm gonna throw in a white mistflower right here. Now this native white mistflower is amazing in that it grows like a shrub 2 to 6 feet tall. I got one at my house and I can certify that it attracts butterflies. Now again, right underneath these sable minor palmettos, I'm gonna throw in 2 fall obedient plants, and these guys spread by rhizomes, so they probably will colonize this area relatively quickly. I am gonna have a path in between everything in case these plants are really on some vini vidi vici type of stuff, man. I came, I saw, I conquered, okay? Let's get them in, man. And I think this slight shade behind me should do a number for these guys. Okay, so the fall obedient plant, I recommend anybody throw in their garden. Why? It can grow from Canada all the way down to Florida. Oh, there's a big spider up in that mound. And it also is a perennial that has snapdragon-like flowers. It is native to the United States and it attracts hummingbirds. So replace the snapdragons with a dude that can grow in sun or shade and spreads by itself. Yes. Y'all know I just love planting natives, and this one also spreads easily. It self-seeds, so I'm excited about it. Salvia coccinei, or this tropical sage, natively grows from South Carolina all the way to West Texas. It attracts bees and hummingbirds, and it's highly deer resistant, as is the fall obedient plant. It also can grow in shade or full sun. And hopefully it enjoys the moist clay. And there we go, man. So a week later, I did a follow-up, and it already was in flower. And speaking of flower, it's time to throw some wildflower seeds, man. We're gonna let nature just take hold, randomize this a bit. As I mentioned, last and not least, we're gonna throw the butterfly retreat mix and let nature randomize its selection of plants. Let's get it. Shout out Native American seed. There we go. A nice little handful. Just disperse it, man. Let it fly, baby. So I know you guys are salivating over my arm strength and my quarterback pitch potential, but let me just tell you guys this. I have thrown these seeds in my backyard from Native American seed, and I have walked away with an amazing prairie-like meadow. Trust the process. And that's all there is to it, baby. Let's see what happens.